The biggest shift you can make today? Stop asking how and start asking who. Welcome to the Living Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Toks Aruture, entrepreneur with 20 years of experience, founder of The Baby Cut Shop, a luxury nursery furniture brand and design studio in Chelsea, London. I also founded The Revealery, an invitation-only exclusive furniture company. I'm a TEDx speaker and a mindset coach. This podcast is about embracing mindset shifts through life, business, and faith. Each week, we dive beneath the surface to uncover and challenge the limiting beliefs that hold us back, exploring how to live from the inside out. I believe God has equipped us with the resources to live the life we truly desire. So, if you're ready to use your natural gifts and step into your best self, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening. I am thrilled that you're here. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for tuning in to episode 117. Have you noticed that I love to say the episode number in full at the start of each episode? It's actually more for my benefit to remind myself that once upon a time, I held back from starting the Living Inside Out podcast because I didn't think I'll be able to record beyond episode 6. But I have to say thank you to you, because if you had not been listening, I wouldn't be recording. And that's a fact. So I really want to say thank you for tuning in today, for listening from episode 1 right through to 117. I said it again. Or maybe this is even your very first time listening. In that case, thank you so much. Can I ask you to do one thing, which is to subscribe and rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening. I'm aware that not all podcast platforms allow you to do this, but if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean, I know for a fact that you can do so. You might even be listening on YouTube. If that's the case, please give it a 5-star rating and also subscribe, because these tiny little tasks by you make a massive difference to the listenership of the podcast. I hope you have had a great week so far. Did you listen to episode 116? Let me know your thoughts about it, because today is a follow-on from it. We talked about entrepreneurship and the mistakes that I made. Well, some of the mistakes I made as an entrepreneur. Today, I want to answer some of the questions that I get asked often in one form or the other. These 3 questions are, or I think I'm going to get into 4 questions. These 4 questions are always showing up on my plate, always showing up in conversations, networking meetings, wherever I am. I get this question. And the first one is, how do I know if entrepreneurship is really for me? That's a good one. Entrepreneurship is not a club, okay? You don't need to be validated as a member. You don't need to be certified as one either. There's a quote I love by David Karp, who is the founder of Tumblr, and he goes, "An entrepreneur is someone who has a vision for something and a want to create." It follows then that if you're carrying a vision for something, whether it's a product or a service, and that vision is so strong that it's driving you to start to create, or at least want to create, you're an entrepreneur. Simple. However, we cannot ignore the fact that there are certain traits and capabilities that you must have. So one of them is that you've got to believe so strongly that it stops you playing safe and leads you to take a risk. You've got to be willing to risk losing, i.e., I don't care what it costs me, it must happen. I don't care what happens, whether it works, it doesn't work, whether I get embarrassed or not, I must do it. Some of the costs include money, which is the most obvious, and it's also the one that many people are scared of losing the most. only because it's tangible, and many of us live superficially and we engage better with what our senses can pick up. So the intangibles like relationships and self-respect and embarrassment and shame and all of that tend to be at the back of other people's minds, but money tends to be at the forefront of most people's minds. So you must be willing to pay the price, lose money if needed. Lose relationships. Leonardo da Vinci comes to mind. He is the artist that was carving out cadavers and, to understand how muscles and sinews and bones and organs and all came together so that he would draw them in the most realistic version. So his father wanted him to be an apprenticeship to a famous painter, but he wanted to go his own path and learn how to paint by cutting through cadavers. And it affected his relationship with his father, at least for a season. You might lose your self-respect. Self-respect, Thomas Edison comes to mind. I haven't studied his works, or read his biography, but knowing that he tried and failed, like, was it 999 times or something like that? One can only imagine what he was viewed as or how people saw him and the level of self-respect he lost. So you've got to be willing to lose your self-respect. There's a whole lot of things that entrepreneurship will potentially cost you. You've got to have resilience. An entrepreneur is not guaranteed success or a smooth path. There will be plenty of bumps along the way, along with logical reasons to quit. I was unburdening to someone once and they told me maybe it's time to quit. And that woke me up. Immediately, I crossed their name out of my small list of people that I go to for moral support. And on that note, you've also got to have the wisdom to curate your space, making sure that it is filled with the right people and the right material to allow your ideas to thrive. Episode 116, which was last week, we talked about the same mistakes, or some of the mistakes rather, that I made on my entrepreneurial journey. So your thoughts, beliefs, decision-making, habits, all of that affect the path, and it affects what your journey is going to look like. It is what got you here. And if you want your next stop or your next destination to be different, then you've got to change your thoughts, your habits, and the way that you make your decisions. Many people struggle with self-doubt, and that is absolutely normal, but you've got to shift your mindset. Embrace a lifestyle of learning and resilience, and be willing to do the inner work and then remain committed to it, because this is your life now. So the real question isn't, am I an entrepreneur? But it is, am I willing to own my vision and take the risks required to bring it to life? The second question I'm going to answer is, how do I stop feeling stuck when I don't know what the next step is? I hear you. This is a really common question. And it's a question that I've even had to ask myself. The most common reasons for being stuck is overthinking and indecisiveness. Some of us have multiple talents and abilities and ideas, and we really don't know what to do or where to start. And I totally get it, because we're scared of making the wrong decision. That mindset of hoarding, which is where you want to make all of the decisions and take all the ideas and do all the things at exactly the same time, is one that will paralyze you, because it's birthed out of the fear of missing out, the fear that if I don't choose this idea because I'm going for something else, I'm going to miss out, or this one might fail and maybe it's the other one. Fear in any form causes paralysis, because we prefer to stay in a place of possibilities than risk everything and actually end up failing. And so we wait and we wait and we wait, and we hope that a guru comes to tell us what to do. Well, I have news for you. Your path is unique, and the guru does not have insight to your path. Sorry. You have the responsibility to read the signposts of your own life. You must have heard the expression, read the room. Well, read your room. What does your room look like? Many people fail to practice introspection because, well, it's time consuming. They've got things to do. And so they don't even know what the signs look like. And if that's you, I can help. Overthinking gives you the illusion of progress, but it really is only action that moves you forward. There are no two ways about it. You can think and think and think about a certain thing. And the interesting thing is that it gives you the feeling that you have moved forward. And so your thinking makes you feel good. But really, no change is happening in your life. You've got to take action. Here's something to ponder on. We don't always have complete clarity at the start of the journey. You've got to move and then the path opens up. There's a story in the Bible that I've been reading over and over and over in the last couple of weeks. And that's when God told the children of Israel to cross the Jordan River. They were about to cross into the promised land. And he said to Joshua, tell them to pack up, tell them to get ready, for they're going to cross over and take the promised land. So they all saddle up and they're all ready and they're standing in a line ready to cross over. But the river is right there, staring at them and daring them to come in. But the priests stepped into the water, and the minute their feet went in, the water parted. They didn't have any clarity of how they were going to get to the other side. So if you're carrying a burden or a business idea and you're ready to start and you're packed and you're saddled up, stop waiting to see the full picture. Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You only need to take the first step. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan or a clear vision. You should, but accountability also helps. It was Joshua that told the children, wait until the priests step in, and once they've put their feet in, wait for a minute and then follow them, because it was in that waiting that the path opened up. So you need the right people in your space. You need the right circle of friends or mentors or people, accountability partners even, that can help you see what you cannot see, and they can pull you up when you start to slack and show you a different perspective. Recently, I was in conversation with my group of friends and sharing a problem that I was facing, and they helped me see what I couldn't see, which is that the problem was actually inside the solution. Perspective is such a powerful, unique thing, isn't it? If you've ever been in a position where you are agonizing over something and somebody else comes and tells you, hey, but how about this? Have you looked at it this way? And it literally opens up a whole new world. So having a mentor or a circle of trusted friends, wise people in your space is priceless when it comes to shifting mindsets and taking actions that birth new results. No one actually does it on their own. Third question, what is the biggest mistake you see entrepreneurs make when they start out? It's a good one. Because in the previous episode, like I mentioned, I listed only some of the mistakes I made. I can write a whole book of mistakes, and I am writing one. It's not called my book of mistakes, but it is very close to that. And everything really does come down to one thing, which is not dealing with your mindset early enough. If I had to sum up the mistakes, like the one mistake that most entrepreneurs make, it is not dealing with your mindset early enough. I mentioned earlier that you're in a constant state of evolution. If you don't even know that you're evolving and changing, that means you are not aware that you are having shifting mindsets. And some of those mindsets might be positive, some might be negative. You've got to constantly shepherd your mind and watch to see what's going on in there. I can mention practical things that I've seen, such as flawed pricing strategy. That's one of the biggest things that I have come across that people bring to me is I've got this idea and I want to go launch in a department store, or I want to start to sell to wholesalers, but then the pricing was for direct to consumer. Pricing strategy can be off. Branding mistakes is another one. Branding is a whole subject by itself, and I'm very passionate about branding. Staffing, having the wrong people, selling the wrong products or even selling to the wrong market. Listen, after 20 years of being in business, I have seen it all. Okay. But do you know that the root of all of these mistakes is your mind? For example, I shared how my old mindset of people pleasing led me to keep the wrong members of staff in place. And I didn't get rid of them because I realized, they need to go. I got rid of them because I saw why I was keeping them in. Because if I did not deal with that mindset, I would simply have rehired the wrong people again. So mindset is important. I've also had issues with pricing as well. When I had a lack mindset, I struggled with my pricing. Audience is another one. You may have you may be selling to the wrong audience. Try selling to a market that you feel you don't belong in, and tell me how that goes. Your mindset isn't part of the equation. It is the equation. And the other thing is, you don't simply fix your mind at the start of it all and call it a day and say, okay, I've got the right mindset. That doesn't happen, because it's an ongoing commitment. You are constantly evolving. I keep saying this. Who you are in 2025 is not who you're going to be in 2026. You in a permanent state of peeling off layers and adding new layers. And life is about knowing what to remove and knowing what to keep. It is futile to focus on strategy when really you should be dealing with your beliefs or your fears or even your identity. And your business ends up being a reflection of how you think. So if you're looking to grow your business, you've got to grow the space in which your thoughts about your business reside. If you've been listening to the Living Inside Out podcast for any length of time, you have heard me talk about spirit, soul, and body. And learning to view life through these three dimensions have really helped me to separate myself from my experience so that I can navigate life as a third party looking in. And that's really powerful, because your emotions are standing ready to hijack your plans. If you don't know how to separate your emotions from your beliefs, from your actions, from your dream, you're going to end up with confusion, because there isn't a single driver that's leading you in the direction you should be going. This final question is the one that, if you have ignored everything I've said, which I hope you haven't, listen to this one. What's one shift I can make today that will change how I approach my business? Do you know what the answer is? Stop asking how and start asking who. My friend Tommy recommended this book to me, which I'm currently devouring. It's titled 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. The who doesn't apply only to the people you have in your space, like we've talked about, but it applies mostly to you, because you are the one that's going to recognize the people you need in your space. If you don't have the correct mindset to even know that you need help or that you need people to support you on your journey, you will have people who are, as we say in the Christian world, destiny helpers, and you wouldn't even recognize them. They would just look like ordinary people walking by. You've got to bring yourself into a space where you recognize not only your weaknesses, but you recognize the strengths in other people. And you've also got to grow to a point where your ego and your pride do not hijack the agenda and stop you from asking for help or reaching out for help when you see it. Who you are becoming is the most important part of your existence, because the person who is supposed to fulfill your purpose, that huge dream you have, the purpose and the calling that God has on your life, has got to be worthy of carrying that purpose. You've got to be strong enough. Something comes to mind, which is when I was first learning how to lift weights. My oldest son was teaching me, and I was just really waiting for, the heavy stuff. I wanted to lift the weights, and he's giving me these exercises, which, as far as I was concerned, that was insulting. Like, come on now, I can do better than this. I can lift heavier weights. I want to do more. And he explained to me that before we could lift the heavy weights, I had to train the muscles that would be doing the lifting. So I want to build a muscle, but to build the muscle, I needed help. The muscles that were going to be doing the heavy lifting, needed to be strengthened. You need to be strengthened, and you need to fortify yourself so that you are in the prime position to make your business thrive. We need people. We need the right people, but we need to be the right person to recognize the right people. I remember years ago when I got stuck, I've talked about this also on the podcast, and I felt I couldn't grow any further in the business. I had done everything I could. and I was stuck. It was like, okay, what else is there? I read every book. I've done everything. There was nothing I could do. So I engaged the services of a brilliant mentor, and that changed everything. I've talked about him several times. He was the former CEO to Hugo Boss and some other well-known brands. And one of the major shifts occurred when I acknowledged to myself that I felt inadequate in his presence with all of his experience and his position. And the minute I dropped that mindset of inadequacy, a simple 5-minute phone call immediately afterwards got the baby cut shop into its first ever concession in the House of Fraser. Now, having the right people cannot be overrated. You've got access to their experience, their perspectives, their wisdom. Learn how to make decisions from your future self, the person that you are becoming, not the person you are now. Because if you use the limited resources of where you stand today, you're just going to regurgitate where you are right now. Nothing's going to change. So you've got to stop seeing yourself as a finite being, one that is just who you are now. Who you are now is nothing. You're changing, okay? You're evolving as we speak into the better, improved version of yourself. If today's episode spoke to you and you're realizing that shifting your mindset is the key to your next level, I'd love to invite you into a space where we do this work together. The Mind Shift Circle is a mentorship membership designed to help you break through mental barriers and step fully into the business or the life you're meant to build. So every month we'll have an hour of deep teaching on mindset, entrepreneurship based on the Christian faith, 1 hour of life coaching to answer your questions and help you navigate challenges. And then we'll have ongoing touch points in between sessions just to keep you moving forward. And on the subject of faith, it is open to all faiths. You don't have to be a Christian to benefit from this. Inside the circle, we're going to go deeper, live teachings, coaching, real conversations that challenge the way you think, and you'll have access to other minds so you can have a broader perspective, grab other people's experiences and their wisdom as well, because I think this is really powerful. If you have now been given a spring in your step, or you feel just a little bit more confident that, I can do this. I've got this vision. I've got this business idea, and I think it is possible. I've been nurturing it for a while. And now I feel more confident than ever that I can take the next step. Send me a message, send an email to pa@talksarotire.com, and let's talk about it. Before we wrap up today, I want you to do something. Mark your diaries for these 2 dates, February 22nd and March the 1st. On the 22nd of February, I'm hosting a free Zoom coaching session where we're going to tackle one of the biggest things that hold people back: mental blocks that keep you stuck. If you've ever found yourself overthinking or second guessing your next step, or feeling like you're spinning your wheels but you're not really getting anywhere, this session is for you, completely free. And it's going to be an opportunity for you to not only gain clarity, but also ask any questions you may have about the Mind Shift Circle, my new mentorship membership. And this leads me to the 1st of March, which is the official launch date of the Mind Shift Circle. This is a space, as I said, for deep intentional work on mindset, business, and faith. Now, if you need to break limiting patterns, if you need to build the confidence to take bold steps, if you need to surround yourself with people that you can be accountable to and people who will support you, this is your opportunity. I get many requests for mentorship, like many. If I go into my WhatsApp and I just type in mentorship, or I go into my Instagram messages, I don't know if Instagram does that, Facebook messages, and I just type in mentorship, a bunch of messages come up. The reason I've not been able to commit to it, I do mentor a small handful of people, but the reason I've not been able to commit to it is time. I run a number of businesses and I do a lot and I just haven't had the time. But at the same time, I feel a responsibility to pass on my knowledge and pass on my experience to people who are seeking and people who need what I have, because I believe that purpose is not just about becoming who God made you to be, but it's also about helping the people that are on your path. And I love to do so. That's why I record this podcast. I give free advice and free experiences and free everything on my podcast, because I know that we are supposed to share, we're supposed to give. However, the mentorship circle is a totally different environment. It's one where you have more accountability and you have a very specific intentional goals set, and then we work together to make sure that they're achieved. It's completely different, and I'm so excited about it. I also believe that we should not be living below our potential. I think it's actually wrong that we will one day come to the end of our lives and we'll find that we didn't even do what we were capable of doing because we thought we were not capable of doing it. So save those dates. This 22nd of February for the free Zoom session, 1st of March for the membership launch. And if this episode resonated with you, send me a message because I'd love to hear your thoughts and also share more details. And I nearly forgot. The Authentic Edge, my bite-sized podcast where we get straight to the point, helping you to think bigger, move past limitations, and step into the life you're meant to live. This is just 4 minutes or less, and it's released every weekday, Monday to Friday. It's enough information to get you thinking on a specific path so that you have new results. So make sure you subscribe, available on all podcast platforms. I look forward to connecting with you. I look forward to chatting with you on the 22nd of February. Our last free Zoom session was amazing. And I cannot wait for this one because it's going to be off the charts. Have a lovely rest of the week and remember to live from the inside out.